Well, welcome to the crash. I thought maybe we'd do a quick discussion of what I think is the problem with what happened today and what's going to continue to happen. One is that uh, the eurozone is in a total disaster, total wreckage. There's no real way of bailing out Greece. Uh, Italy's in deep trouble. A lot of these countries that are in real trouble aren't as deeply in debt per capita or per gross national product percentage-wise as the United States is. Yet everybody's fleeing the euro. The euro dipped below a dollar 30 today, and everybody's going into dollars. They're dumping gold. At one point, gold was down $100. At one point, silver was down about 270. It's down. I think it's closed around down $2.38. Everybody's getting out of everything, and they're going into dollars or treasuries, and it just doesn't make any sense. That this country, there is no end to the amount of money we are willing to print to pay our debt. We have tremendous debt coming up due to the fact that we have a medical system that's a total disaster. We need a we need a one payer medical system to save us about 15–18%. We have the fastest growing percentage wise every year for medical bills. We have a lot of pension funds in disaster, especially after today, with the market going down, and people are getting market calls to cover their losses today, and some of them are having to sell silver and sell gold, and they're fleeing from silver and gold into dollars. But there's nothing really behind the dollar. The only way out of this disaster are there are two ways. One is another war to totally distract the American public from the fact that our dollar is worth nothing, and to distract the world. Why the world thinks the dollar. The the Chinese announced today they were going to peg their yuan to the dollar again. So that means they are still interested in using the dollar as an international monetary unit. Uh, the Chinese, we never knew how dependent we are on them, because if they don't have the money to keep buying our treasuries, we don't have the money to keep buying our treasuries. The Fed can't just keep printing money and buying treasuries with it and then owing ourselves interest, which we can't even afford to pay our interest. We have municipalities like Harrisburg, the the state capital of Pennsylvania, declaring bankruptcy. All right, now for all time we thought it was actually against the law to have a municipality go bankrupt, but now the state of Pennsylvania has to come in and take over the economic affairs of Harrisburg. So the Republicans say, well, create jobs, create jobs, create jobs in the private sector. But how's that possible? What thing is possible that we could make? We're going to in the private sector. We're going to make more plumbers. We're going to make more electricians. We're going to make more and more uh, construction jobs. They're not out there. The banks have taken that money, the trillions of dollars that have been loaned to them, and they turn around and bought treasuries because it's a sure bet. They've made over $10 billion in interest payments this year. The banks have, without ever offering that money up to the public. Now, you can't have more electricians if there's no work for them. You can't have more plumbers if the construction is down. And construction is as bad as it's ever been. And we have more and more communities where there's house after house after house under. So that this sell-off on houses, these foreclosures are going to go on for years. The housing market probably can't even turn around till 2015, and we have more and more people coming in just through birth and all. The population is growing, but there's nothing for them to do. This is a real mess. The Republicans say cut taxes. Well, if you cut taxes, what are the rich going to do? They're not going to invest in America because we don't make anything. We can't afford to make anything here. We cannot compete with foreign labor. There's no way in the world it can happen. And our resources aren't that extraordinary that we have to import a lot of this stuff now. So that until the until Vietnam, look at China. China now is outsourcing a lot of their labor. They're outsourcing uh, parts for cars and uh, refrigerators and all a lot of that. They're doing a lot of that is being done in Vietnam and Cambodia and other countries that are in worse shape per capita income than China is, and China's starting to build a middle class. So what are we going to do? The Obama administration says we're going to have to maybe have another third easing in which we dump another 500-600 billion dollars into the labor market by redoing our infrastructure. Well, our infrastructure needs to be redone, but unless we raise taxes on gas and licensing for automobiles and trucks and all, where's the money going to come from? Everybody wants something, but nobody wants to pay for it. The Republicans are screaming because unless they come up with a bill by the first of the year, that huge automatic cuts start coming into the armed forces, and the armed forces in turn are going to lay off guaranteed at least 50,000 people in the next 2 years. Now, the people that are coming back from these terrible, unwanted, unpaid for, and bloody wars, uh, that they are having a terrible time finding a job. They're having a terrible time adjusting because of deep psychological problems. Thousands of them have come home and committed suicide, which is a terrible tragedy that these people go and fight for something that they didn't understand was the 1%, and the 1% stay to fuck home and send these poor boys and poor girls off to fight for them. And what do they get for it? They get to come home and not have a job. Why? Because the 1% take their money overseas because they don't like to pay any taxes at all here. So the tax structure has to change, and the job structure, I have no idea how that's going to change because by not taxing the rich and thinking that the rich are going to create jobs, they're not. They haven't done it, and they've made more money than ever, and their money they're making is through commodity trades and through hedge funds, not by creating a single new job. As a matter of fact, even Wall Street's laying people off, so that we are in for a deep, deep recession. And I don't care what they tell you, that they say, well, it's gross domestic product. But gross domestic product is boosted by a number of things. One is the gross domestic product is boosted by these hedge funds and by their income, and that has nothing to do with your standard of living. The average man in the street is much worse off now than he was 10 years ago, than he was 20 years ago. So this is a terrible, terrible situation, and we could see silver take bigger dips than it has because people just have to sell something because they are getting margin calls, and they are also so fearful, but they're going to the dollar, and that even makes silver go down more. A strong dollar is not what drives up the price of silver or the price of gold. And these other countries, sooner or later, somebody's going to have to start pegging their economy, their 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 economic unit to gold or to silver or to something, to so that anybody in the world will have some secure feeling that there's something behind it. And when everybody in the world figures out that there's really nothing behind our situation, when we're going to have multi-trillion-dollar deficits as far down the road as we can see, that then they'll lose faith in the dollar. And when that happens, then you better have the shovel ready to dig up some silver and to go out and buy a loaf of bread, because we're going to go from no inflation, no inflation, no inflation to hyperinflation. Right now, we might be in a period of stagflation. This economy, as far as I can see, and I'll be so happy to discuss this with anybody who would like to leave a comment, that there is no immediate short-term answer, and the long-term answer is even as grim, because no matter what you invent, look at this 3D printing. That's a great thing, but I'm sure parts of the printers and all are probably made overseas. And any other thing you can think of. The only place where there's job openings and is North Dakota, where they're fracking which is terrible on the environment, and they're drilling for oil like crazy, saying we got to become oil independent. Well, that's all well and fine, but those jobs are highly specialized jobs for those guys out in the field, and there's only a limited number of them. And once those fields come in, then there's hardly any jobs there. So that we I just see nothing that we're not making refrigerators. We don't. We even though Ford and Chrysler and General Motors might be making cars now, most of the parts they're making them with fewer and fewer people because most of the parts are coming in from overseas. So this economy is in the muck, and it's going to be in the muck. And as I said, anybody that would like to tell me how it's going to get out of the muck, I'd be very interested in learning, because there is nothing out there so long as there is a country where people will do labor for much, much cheaper than here. And Gingrich's answer, letting kids take adult jobs, doing away with with child labor laws, and doing away with having to provide people with health care, that's only going to jam the system up worse. So there has to be major reform where we have a one payer, because sooner or later even the seniors are going to get hit who vote the most, because Medicare and Medicaid are going to be affected, and it's just going to start consuming everybody's retirement. So we're in a lot of trouble, but I would not sell silver, and I don't know that it's going to go down much further or not, and I don't even know when I might be a buyer of silver again. But I think what you have, you should try to keep on, and I think that we are in for some very rough times. And go talk to your great grandfather or your grandfather and ask him what the Depression was like, and then start stocking up cans of food. Sorry.